Welcome everyone to NOOREVER's Live with Miss Ceyda about Tibb-e-Nabawi. Ceyda Sablak is a medical resident at Tripoli Army Medical Center in Hawaii. She's currently in her second year of pediatric residency training, and she's interested in social medicine and integrative medicine, and will be talking to us about Tibb-e-Nabawi. So, Ms. Ceyda, what are notable instances from the life of our Prophet that can provide guidance for individuals striving to lead healthier lives?
Thank you, Hüsna. So there's so many examples from Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's life that we can integrate into our own lives. Inshallah, I'm going to talk more about those kind of day-to-day examples in the second half of the presentation, and then kind of start off with how Tibb-e-Nabawi is a general approach to medicine and life as well, which is actually also our day-to-day, right? But I think generally when we talk about Tibb-e-Nabawi, we can get bogged down into those, like, these are the things we eat, these are the things that we need to do. But in reality, it's an entire medical model and a medical approach to medicine, and we can lose sight of that sometimes. So I will start with that. So there are lots of different approaches to healing to begin with. Before 1977, the main approach to medicine was a biomedical model, which took a very materialistic and physical approach, saying that, you know, if you have X, Y, and Z, like, problems in your cells or in your bones, whatever, then you're going to have X, Y, and Z disease. In 1977, George Engel said, you know, this model isn't sufficient. We're really overlooking the psychiatric component. And now we have the biopsychosocial model, which replaced the biomedical model of medicine. But when you go all the way back to 680, Tibb-e-Nabawi, or Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's approach to medicine, was actually included biological, psychological, social, and a spiritual perspective. We defined Tibb-e-Nabawi as a divine medicine that was gifted by Allah to our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam by divine revelation, by wahi. And it's interesting because currently, especially since COVID-19, this biopsychosocial and spiritual perspective to medicine is becoming more and more widespread. People are starting to say the old, you know, George Engel's biopsychosocial perspective of medicine isn't sufficient, and we do need a spiritual component. So going all the way back now to what originally Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had said, which was divine revelation, right? It wasn't just Muhammad himself saying this, it was revealed to him by Allah as well. So, oh yes, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's very interesting. Reminded me of a story that I had heard from one of my friends about our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I think when they moved to Medina, the Jews were, if I don't remember incorrectly, the Jews were complaining about the decrease in customers because ever since they arrived, there were less people coming with health problems because they had started applying the rules that are followed by, there's like not eating before you get really hungry, or when you're eating, you stop eating before you get entirely full. So, you know.
Yeah, it's very interesting. How Tibb-e-Nabawi is actually, a lot of it is supported by current evidence as well. And it's just something that unfortunately we've, you know, maybe lost or not given enough value to in our own lives and our own communities, and it's really like a treasure that we need to you know, protect.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first principle of Tibb-e-Nabawi is healing by belief. That means you need to believe that it's going to work for it to work. This isn't like a new concept either. This is, we'll talk about kind of placebo effect in the upcoming slide. But you need to believe that something is going to work for it to actually work. So there's a ayat that says, and when I'm ill, it is he who cures me. And then another hadith that says, verily in the body is a piece of flesh, which if it is sound, the entire body is sound. If it is corrupt, the entire body is corrupt. Truly, it is the heart. And you can take this from that biopsychosocial, spiritual perspective, right? Like from a very materialistic biologic perspective, if your heart is not functioning well, your entire body is going to be affected by that. And if you take it from the other extreme of a spiritual, completely metaphysical perspective, it gives you the same meaning as well. So recognizing that kind of every physical thing that we see has a metaphysical reflection, and seeing that interconnectedness. So going back to you need to believe that something is going to work. So the placebo effect has been described for over 400 years. I'm sure you've heard of it, Hüsna, I'm assuming. Yeah. So we can talk about the very materialistic, physical, how it works in the brain, right? There is an area in the medulla that relates pain information, and that decreases activity in the periaqueductal gray, which is another area in your nervous system, and then that helps your body suppress pain. But what have we done here? Physically, nothing. A person just said, I believe that I'm going to feel better. I believe that this is not going to be painful, and your body starts suppressing the pain. So it's most well studied in pain, but it could definitely, I think it's just like a glimmer of what it means in kind of like Islamic, like Tibb-e-Nabawi as well. Like you have to believe that something is going to work for it to actually show effect. But we are never expected by our faith to assume blind faith, right? In the Quran, it always says to question, and there's a very large support for like what we say is evidence-based medicine. So what is evidence-based medicine? It is what the literature says, what the research says, what the clinician knows. So someone who's always interacting with patients, they have their own anecdotal experience, the things that they see, the things that, with time, they're like, I saw this thing happen again and again. There isn't really strong research for it. Maybe we should research this thing because I see that this is happening in a lot of my patients, and a lot of research can be powered by clinical expertise. And then a lot of research can also be powered by patient values, what the patient wants. If a patient is saying, I really think that this, supplement is helping me, and we're like, there's no research that says that the supplement is going to help you, but then you keep seeing a lot of patients who are coming on these supplements. Now we have to say, okay, well, let's research. A lot of people are saying this is helping them. We need to see if there is any evidence behind this. So this is kind of how we approach evidence-based medicine. And just kind of the background in Islamic history, as well as just like the Quran, and how it's supported. So it says, do not follow that of which you have no knowledge. Surely the hearing, the sight, the heart, each of these shall be called into account. So all of those parts of us are going to be questioned of if we were questioning everything that was presented to us, or if we were just following with blind faith. And then it says, are those who have knowledge and those who have no knowledge alike? Only the men of understanding are mindful. And then, and whoso brings the truth and believes therein, such are the dutiful. So all of these kind of promote a scholarly approach to everything, like not just science, but like even in our belief in God, it says question, critically reason, and truly, that's truly what belief is, and coming again stronger and stronger back to Allah, inshallah. And then in the hadith, it says the acquisition of knowledge is compulsory. It's sparse for every Muslim, whether they are male or female. This New York Times article is very interesting. It's not written by someone who's Muslim, which I think makes it more interesting. And it's about how Islam used to be at the forefront of scientific, knowledge. And at what point did they lose? And it's when they stopped, critically reasoning. Basically the point that the article makes. This building here is made by give Hadith Sultan, who it was a hospital and kind of a medrese, like a school at the same time. So it can be like considered one of the first medical schools. And that's in Turkey. And then Ibn al-Haytham is also known for his development of the scientific method as well. And, you know, this presentation for you guys is about Tibb-e-Nabawi. It's not about, you know, Islamic history and Islamic like scientific advances. You could have multiple lectures just on that alone, but we'll just kind of focus back on Tibb-e-Nabawi. I don't know if you wanted to add anything here, Hüsna, or if you were what have you been thinking about?
I don't have anything to add for this part, but when we were talking about the placebo effect, it just reminded me how when we were younger with my sister, when it was like when we were called to clean the kitchen, she would run away saying, "Oh, I have stomach pain" and all that, and then slowly she started to actually experience it, and now she's like, it actually happens. And I'm just telling her like, yeah, I think it's just all in your mind.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's a tough one. It's actually very interesting. There's a lot of psychological overlay with gastrointestinal like stomach issues in general. And some of the best treatments for gastrointestinal diseases is therapy. Like if you have IBS, like inflammatory bowel syndrome, there isn't really any like medicine or pill that they will recommend, but they will say, you know, go to, you know, get therapy and get like cognitive behavioral therapy for it.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. So I guess all this kind of ties back to this hadith where blind faith is not what's expected of us. Tie your camel and then put your trust in Allah, that tawakkul portion of it, but always kind of having your strong, you know, foundation before you do that. Islam is not against modern medicine. Tibb-e-Nabawi does not like clash with modern medicine. It's actually very integrative, and that is kind of what we're gonna slowly start getting into.
Sometimes
so healing by dua is kind of the
I was just gonna say sometimes so the place I live, our door is a little like broken, so sometimes when you have to lock the door, it takes some time, and sometimes when I'm in a rush, I just close it. I just read 3 Ikhlas, and I'm like, God, I closed the door. And I read 3 Ikhlas. So please protect everyone. And they were getting mad at me. They're like, you need to lock it, or else it's not gonna work. I was like, but yeah.
Yes, you do need to lock the door. Right? You have to tie your camel first.
Yeah.
3 Ikhlas on top of it. It's okay. Okay, so healing by dua. So you need to believe. So you can make dua, right? But if you're not believing in the dua that you make, then what is the purpose of the dua that you're making, right? So I guess you know the story of Prophet Job, Hazrat Ayub, Hüsna. Do you know?
No. Oh no. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
If you want, do you want to kind of give a short?
Wait, if I remember correctly, it was the prophet who had a disease for a ton of years, and he didn't complain about it, and he continued his worship. But when his illness was about to take over his heart and tongue, he was afraid that it was going to prevent him from, you know, continuing his ibadat towards God. And so that he had prayed to God to cure him from this illness, and God had done so.
Exactly. That's exactly the story. You know, more details can be found in the second gleam as well, or ikinci lema. And the dua that he makes is right here. Verily distress has seized me, and you are the most merciful of those who show mercy. And then Ustad says, you know, corresponding to the physical wounds and illnesses of Prophet Job, we have inner spiritual diseases, right? Kind of also goes back to that. If you have a heart that's diseased, the entire body is diseased. And if our inner being was able to be turned outside and our outer being would be turned inside, we would appear even like sicker than Prophet Job or Hazrat Ayub sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well. So just kind of tying this back into dua, just because this is an example that a lot of people are familiar with. and the power of dua and how important it is. So the power of words as well. So this is a study that's done by a Japanese scientist. It is a little bit of a controversial study because people have said it's not been able to be replicated, but I think there's still truth in it, and it's important to talk about. And basically, the premise of his study is when you speak positively towards even water molecules, the beauty that is presented in them is, you know, different than if you speak negatively, like the words like you disgust me, and like the picture that that makes, or like the words you fool, versus like these more positive sounds and experiences. We could argue that maybe this is the actual sound waves that are reaching the water, or there are several different languages, right? And several different sounds. It could be a metaphysical, you know, like electromagnetic wave. Like when you say positive things, you feel positive things. And that electromagnetic, I guess, field and the effect that it has on these molecules could also be that. Or it could be something that we can't explain with words that we have right now. So I know, Hüsna, you wanted to mention something here as
Yeah,
well.
is this Japanese researcher's name Masaru Emoto? Because
Yes.
yeah, because he also did research on so he this one Muslim researcher came to him and he brought Zamzam water, and he had also done this experiment with Zamzam water, and he tried to crystallize it, but the Zamzam water wouldn't crystallize because, you know, of its holiness and like the minerals it has. And so after, I think, filling up, like he used, I think, 1,000 gallons of distilled water, if I remember correctly, and he was finally able to crystallize Zamzam water, and instead of having like one crystal, it had two that were like laid on top of each other, sort of. And then he was sort of confused about this, and then from the video I had watched about this, it had said maybe because the name is Zamzam, so it's like two word two, yeah. And then the Muslim scholar said, what if we let the water, like the crystal, listen to some Quran recitations? And what happened was that the two crystals, they formed into what they call like a perfect crystallization. It was super smooth. Like here you can see how they have like sort of spiky edges.
Yeah,
It was
the edges.
extremely smooth. And that sort of just reminded me, like in our religion we say Bismillah, right, before we drink our water, and that might actually help with, you know, making the water maybe more beneficial for the human body, and like maybe even softer, since the crystals are going to have a softer shape. So that's very interesting, I think.
Yeah.
I hope he continues his research.
Yeah, it is very cool. I hope it's like replicated as well, because I know other people find this research very controversial and think that he's kind of, you know, fringe, like a fringe scientist. But I think, I don't know. I can't say that I know. I didn't try and replicate his research. I think it should be tried. It seems very interesting, and I think there's still truth in it, regardless of if it changes the crystals or not. When you speak positively to something or to someone, it's going to have a positive effect. And when you use negative words, it's going to have a negative effect. Nobody can dispute that very simple fact, I would say. And that does affect our health, right? If we think positively of ourselves, or if people think positively of themselves, that has a very positive effect on their overall health, like their physical health as well.
Yeah, about this topic, it's for elementary and middle schoolers, it's like, from what I've experienced, it's a very common project they do with plants, where they have like three pots, and they like they throw a seed. For one, they say like they compliment it every day, they say good things. One, it's neutral, nothing is done said. The other one, they complain to it, they say bad things to it, and in the end you can see the one that was complimented and positive, like with using positive words fed, I guess, it was much healthier compared to the one that was continuously heard negative words throughout its growing process. But it's very interesting the effect that words could have on people and every organism.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very interesting. I agree. So kind of it like why does this affect it, right? So that's kind of like more of a theoretical thing. So sound waves are like there's only a very few like hertz that humans can actually hear, or like very few frequencies that humans can hear. You know, on the other spectrum, like frequencies that elephants might use to communicate, or like bats and like dolphins or whatever. And then like ultrasound, we all know, can be like used to see like babies in the womb as well. But they're all sound waves. That just kind of shows, I guess, how like you know, weak as humans we are too, right? We have these huge egos. We think we're capable of so much, but we can only hear, you know, this much of the sound waves. So we're trying to explain these phenomena. We're trying to explain, you know, why dua might be powerful, etc. But like, what do we actually know? What can we even experience? So an example of like ultrasounds, you can actually they have a high frequency ultrasound that you can converge all of the ultrasound onto tumors, and then treat tumors as well, just very like directly. So here is like the tumor before it was treated, and then after it's treated, it's getting smaller and kind of turning back into like the similar to the tissue that's like surrounding it. So like I was trying to kind of explain before, this might also sound very fringe, right? Like, is it the actual like like the dua that we're making, is it the actual sound waves that is reaching something and like healing it, like the actual like waves that are coming out of our mouth? But then sometimes, right, we're making dua, we're just whispering, we're not actually, there aren't any actually potentially sound waves that are coming out, or what kind of sound waves are coming out? Is it the electromagnetic field that is being released from our heart when we're like connected, or like the electromagnetic field that's being released from our brain, right, as we're making these connections and thinking about different things? Or this is taking a very like biomedical model, just looking at it at a very physical, materialistic point of view. How could these things work from just a very superficial view? And then if you add that spiritual, metaphysical element, it's like, you can even kind of like prove this from a very physical point of view. And if now you're expanding your belief and saying, I actually believe in something that maybe I don't have the words to explain, then like, why not? Why couldn't this work? Why couldn't this be a healing mechanism? Like, the world opens a whole new world, I feel like. Is this confusing? I feel like it might be confusing.
No, it's actually reminded me how this one lady had given us a lecture about how like reading the Quran out loud actually has a lot of beneficial impacts on your body because of the vibrations that come out of your mouth, and like how your throat sort of works to pronounce those words. And it reminded me of that. And also I'm like, I wonder if there's any research going on about ultrasound treatment using Quran recitations. I think that would have been, if there's no one out there who hasn't done research using ultrasound treatment with Quran recitation, I'm giving you an idea. You should do it.
Yes, I agree. I think there's so many gaps in our research for like integrative medicine, and that is especially like surrounding Quran as well. I think there is so much to be like discovered. And then that ties in perfectly to my next slide, where the Quran itself says that we send down of the Quran that which is healing and a mercy for the believers. So we can take that from a physical perspective again, like the vibrations that, you know, that Abla was telling you guys about, or from a very metaphysical perspective as well. We don't need to necessarily explain everything by physical entities. Right, because the first tenet of Tibb-e-Nabawi is that we believe. We don't believe, like, it's not blind faith, but I don't think that like true faith, so like unblind faith, what would we call it? Proven faith is not necessarily, it does not always need to be proven in physical manifestations. If we're believing in metaphysics, that is a proof of belief as well. It's if we are able to prove it to ourselves.
I think the Quran, outside of physical, I think it has a big psychological psychological, I guess, healing for people as well, because of like the things it talks about and how it helps you just trust God. Like even if something's going wrong, you know, you'll just open it and you'll be like, whoa, like this ayat is perfect for my situation right now.
Yes, exactly. It's very, very, very true. And then it can also tie back into like meditation as well, right? Sometimes when we're reading the Quran, we're controlling our breath, or kind of focus, if we're reading to focusing on maybe what it's telling us, like that psychological impact of it. Praying itself, like salah, like namaz itself, is also like kind of a form of meditation if you think about it. And regularly doing that really relaxes our mind. It increases our pain threshold. It lowers our blood pressure. And then when we pray with Jamaat, for example, like what does it do? It helps us connect with others. Like our faith, alhamdulillah, gives us so many opportunities for to do these things that are known to provide benefits, that have been researched. So like namaz, salah, reading Quran themselves have not been researched, but meditation has been researched a lot. And we know that when we do those things, we're kind of in a meditative state. So we can kind of extrapolate this data for us as well, that these are the benefits that we are, inshallah, getting if we're truly in that meditative state, right? Because sometimes we're praying and sometimes we're reading Quran and we're not in a meditative state. And that is what we need to be like reflective of ourselves and be honest with ourselves and say, you know, am I actually, you know, connecting here, or am I, you know, tricking myself?
Yeah, sometimes I hear from people, oh, like I rather meditate than pray. But in reality, I think my subjective opinion is that meditation was sort of influenced from what's done in prayer. It's just that we don't know how to, I mean, personally, I don't know how to pray properly. So sometimes it's like, sometimes you might be like, well, like I'm praying, but where's the, like, I don't feel it. And I think, but then when I'm meditating, I feel it perfectly. I think what really matters is if you could focus. That's both for meditation and prayer. Focus is what's important. And with meditation, you're focusing, but with prayer, in my opinion, it's you're adding on to just the focus. The recitations, those psychological, I would like call just like the belief that you have what you're saying, and you're connecting with something that's greater than you. Yeah, it's very helpful. It's very nice. And I think when you're able to do these properly, all that was listed on that slide about meditation, it's 10 times better.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, so Hoji Efendi has a, you know, a lecture or a maybe essay, I'm not sure, where the title is Namazı hissetmek için ne yaptınız? Like, what have you done to feel yourself in prayer, right? And in it, the solution that he kind of gives is dua. Again, he says, like, to be able to like pray properly, make dua that you want to pray properly, that you want to, you know, connect to Allah in that prayer. And that's the solution that he gives in this dua up here as well. So when you were kind of speaking about that, I moved forward a few slides so that we can talk about this and jump around it a little bit. But I'll kind of go back as to, again, like connecting it back to physically, how does this work, right? Because we're trying to prove to ourselves, we're not taking anything on blind faith. We're not just saying, okay, people say that this is good, so it's good. Like, how does this work in our body in a physical form? So so within prayer, there's gratitude, right? The opposite of gratitude is complaining. And how does complaining literally kill you? This is a very interesting article. This is the title of the article, The Science of Happiness, Why Complaining is Literally Killing You. And it talks about how when you are constantly angry, you are constantly stressed, you are physically weakening your immune system, because chronically you have increased blood pressure. And when you have increased blood pressure, like chronically long term, then you increase your risk of heart disease, obesity, diabetes, and like a whole bunch of other illnesses, because everything's connected to your heart, like we said, right? And like blood pressure is controlled by the arteries that come out of the heart. So it makes this argument that, you know, if you're in a constant state of gratitude, and you are rewiring your brain towards love, then you are actually kind of lowering those cortisol levels, lowering those stress-inducing hormones, and living a healthier life. And then you can see this in your brain, in your neurons. So long-term potentiation is also, we call it neurons that fire together, wire together. And then whichever one you're using more becomes kind of your default pathway. And the shortest path will always win the race. Whichever pathways you're using the most are going to be the ones that are growing more. But why are they faster? Why do they like win the race? Because the more that you use those pathways, this long-term potentiation LTP, they have more dendrites, more cells growing. Those brain cells are actually getting bigger. Those neurons are getting bigger. They're having more. They're becoming like denser. They're growing more of those like dendrites, and you're strengthening those like positive connections that are releasing those like positive hormones, like that decreasing your cortisol, which is released from your brain. Your brain connects to sensors in your heart as well, making sure those connections are well as well. So it's all so interconnected, which is kind of crazy. And then dua and LTP. So we can just go through these. This is kind of an outdated slide. I realize it's 2023 now, but in 2019, I was just kind of curious to see how many times Hoji Efendi had mentioned the word neuron. And at that point, it was 8 times, which I think is strange, right? You're an Islamic scholar. Why are you talking about neurons? It's I don't know, it's not like something that I would expect. And since 2019, he's like used it more. Like you can see it, like the number is definitely higher than 8 at this point. But it's just, I think it ties back into kind of what we already talked about, so I'm not going to like belabor the point more. But if we're constantly making dua, constantly praying and connecting to Allah outside of this like victim of cultural Islam, because right, you were saying that like some people are, well, I prefer to meditate rather than to do those things. Maybe that's being a victim of cultural Islam, because we're praying but we're not actually feeling the things that we're supposed to feel. We're not making the connections we're supposed to make. But inshallah, if we are, then we would be getting more of the benefits than what is being claimed by just doing meditation alone. And then this is a breathing exercise that, hopefully everyone can take home with them. So Sheikh Shirazi has a quote where he says, "Every inhalation of the breath prolongs life, and every expiration gladdens our nature." So every breath requires 2 gratitudes, because there's 2 benefits. When you breathe in, there's the benefit of it prolonging your life. And then when you breathe out, it gladdens your nature. So you can breathe in, alhamdulillah, inhaling gratitude for, Allah giving you life again. And then breathing out, saying subhanallah, and exhaling appreciation, because it has now gladdened your nature. Something that we can think about. If you just do this for 1 minute and see how it impacts you and impacts their connection. And it's a type of meditation, right? It is a meditation, but we're using our own framework for it, our own Islamic framework, inshallah.
I think I would love to try this out. I think it would be so helpful in a lot of ways in my life, but also like in prayer as well. Like they usually say, oh, if you want to be more focused in your prayer, maybe you can do dua before. But maybe this breathing exercise where we include our the Islamic framework, maybe it could help, because you're already focusing on the importance of those words, while also helping control your breathing, how your heart is beating, which can help you, experience your prayer a lot better.
Yeah, inshallah. Yeah, hopefully we find a way to connect, because I think it's so hard, especially in this day and age. We have so many distractions. When we're praying, it's so hard to be focused, but inshallah, we find that connection and focus, and kind of get those benefits, physical and metaphysical as well, right? The goal is always to be connected to Allah, but the lecture is on Tibb-e-Nabawi, so we'll focus back on that. So we kind of already talked about this, how to feel while we pray, inshallah. And then finally, usually when we talk about Tibb-e-Nabawi, this is what people want to talk about, right? Healing by lifestyle, eating better, positive thinking, exercise. These are all parts of Tibb-e-Nabawi. So sleep hygiene is something that's talked about so frequently, especially nowadays, and how, you know, good sleep really prevents things like obesity, diabetes, increases your immune defense, decreases your chronic pain, increases your fertility. There's like so much that it's good for. Sleep is really, really important. And then the next slide, just kind of comparing the sleep hygiene that is kind of prescribed by medicine today, and then supported by the hadith that we see from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So something that I always tell my pediatric patients is no screens 1 hour before bed. And then in the hadith, it says one should not sleep before the night prayer, nor have discussions after it. He's saying don't even have discussions. And what are we doing? We're on our phones, bright screens, watching videos, talking to people, doing everything. So no screens 1 hour before bed. I think it matches pretty well. Early mornings are always recommended as well. And in the hadith, it says, early morning has been blessed for my ummah. Alhamdulillah. Hopefully we can wake up and, you know, make use of that early morning. We talk about the benefits of showering before bed as well. And then in the hadith, it says, whenever you go to bed, perform ablution like that for prayer, perform wudu, and lie on your right side. A lot of people with like insomnias or parasomnias, we recommend that they do like different meditations or affirmations before they go to bed. And this, you know, translates into different du'as before bed, right? We have a lot of du'as that you can do before bed that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did before bed. If we could like learn those du'as and do those du'as, how would they impact our sleep hygiene and our overall health? We talk about the benefits of side sleeping. That kind of goes back to, you know, lying on your right side. And then finally, making sure your sleeping space is clean and dark. And then in the hadith, again, it says, put out lamps when you go to bed, shut the doors, and cover water and food containers. So a lot of the lifestyle that's led by, you know, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if we could just apply it to our lives, that's what Tibb-e-Nabawi, you know, is. Then he mentions, you know, general cleanliness. Again, these are the things that we talk about, you know, brushing your teeth or doing miswak. It prevents cavities and abscesses in your mouth. Cutting your nails regularly, again, is like in the hadith, prevents pinworms, nail fungus, ingrown nails. We know that taharat is in the hadith as well, and then that prevents pilonidal cysts, which are kind of common and really gross. And then hair as well, like cutting your hair, brushing your hair, keeping your hair clean, prevents things like lice, ringworm, and dandruff. And I didn't go into a lot of details regarding this because I feel like when we do talk about Tibb-e-Nabawi, these are the things that we talk about. We're like, we should do these things, but then we're like, but why? Why are we doing this? We need the buy-in, right? So it's like, do we believe? What is the reason behind this? So that's why I kind of wanted to focus initially on those things. And now kind of bring back this knowledge that we already know, right? That we know, but for some reason we're not doing. Why are we not doing these things that we've learned about so many times? Yeah. I don't know. Did you have anything to add?
No, I just like, I'm really glad that you're talking about this because I think this information, especially, I don't think we're really educated about Tibb-e-Nabawi. As you said, it's like mentioned, but we don't really have deep knowledge about it. And I think if we were to have knowledge about it, aka by watching this video, and you know, trying to apply it to our lives, it would be so many problems that we're facing right now, and I think that we're over exaggerating. If we were to apply this, which I want to, I'm like watching it, I'm like listening to it, and I'm just like, you gotta fix that. Okay, it's really good.
Well, I know you guys had done a miswak video, right? Like it was on TikTok, I think.
Oh yeah, miswak is one of the another important. I have one. I tried brushing my teeth with it before the NOOREVER video.
Yeah.
But yeah, miswak is also one of those very helpful parts about, I guess, that was included in our Prophet's life, it has so many chemicals that actually doesn't help with only cleaning, but it helps with healing your teeth as well. Like, and I personally experienced it. I had a cavity in one of my teeth, and ever since I started using the miswak, like, I don't even know how, I no longer, it doesn't exist. Like, normally I'd have to go to a doctor to get that fixed, right? But when I started using the miswak, it just healed by itself, and that just shows how powerful the miswak is.
Yeah. SubhanAllah. Yeah, I should start using miswak too. I went to the dentist on Friday and they told me I needed to get my wisdom teeth removed. So, because all four of my wisdom teeth have come in, and she was like, all four of them have cavities, and she was like, you need to get them removed. I was like, okay. Like, it's really hard to clean back there. Like, it's normal. That's why we tell people to get them removed. Because she's like, well, what do you? I was like, I brush my teeth. Like, I do everything I'm supposed to do. She's like, yeah, wisdom teeth are just really hard to take care of. So sad. But I should start using miswak. Maybe when I go back, they'll be like, oh, your wisdom teeth are fine. You don't need to.
That's actually, sometimes I'm just like, okay, I have a doctor's appointment. I'm gonna start using the miswak even more. So when I come, so I can come with healthy teeth, and there's nothing that I have to deal with.
I love it. Yeah. Well, it's good to know. And then let's see. And then we have the Quran ayat that supports this as well. I know we're running short on time, so I'll start, kind of speeding things up. So exercise is also a very big part of our Prophet's life. He says to teach your children swimming, archery, and horse riding. He was, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was very physically fit. He would race Aisha radiallahu an. Rukana was a very famous wrestler of the time, and he's known to have wrestled him. And then there is a hadith not a hadith, one of the other Sahaba says this, where they say, I did not see anyone walk faster than him. A few moments ago, he would be here, and then he would be there, and he would just be walking his normal pace, but we found it difficult to keep up with him. So just knowing that he was a very physically fit person. And then we're going to talk about healing by foods. Just the office references. So these are the foods that are mentioned in the Quran. We have the date, olive, grape, banana, fig, pomegranate. I'm sure there are others. This is just one image that I found. And then from the hadith, these are foods that Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam liked to eat. So in this image, I kind of tried to find some current research about these foods that was done, and what they found were the benefits of it. And a lot of them are antioxidants, anti-inflammatory. Melons, for example, have ACE inhibitors in them, and ACE inhibitors are actually the pills that we give people who have hypertension to treat their hypertension. A lot of them are vinegar is also antibacterial. There's so much research about mushrooms now, and how it relates to your gut microbiota, the microbiome of your gastrointestinal tract. And there's so much research about how that can be related to ADHD or autism, or even just your general immune health. There's so much that's unknown about our just how our microbiome affects our health in general. And then kind of moving forward, grapes and how they impact even our mood, polyphenols, how they impact our mood. And then honey is the only thing that I will tell parents and patients who are over a year old it's the only effective cough medicine. You will see other cough suppressants and stuff on in pharmacies, but it's all marketing. There's actually no research behind that. So we're talking about evidence-based medicine, right? And current medicine, there's so much that's marketing that doesn't have good evidence behind it. So honey is the only thing that's actually been researched multiple times and shown to be the effective cough medicine. It's the only thing that I will recommend to my patients as well. So you can look at each of these foods specifically and the benefits that they provide, but it's not I'm going to be okay, you have heart disease, so now all you can eat is, melons because, that they have ACE inhibitor in them, and that's what we're going to do. They're not pills. So you need to have a holistic view. Each of these foods have these different benefits, but what do they mean as a whole? And that's kind of what this gets into. So the Mediterranean diet, these foods are kind of what we see in the Mediterranean diet. And the Mediterranean diet has been studied many times as like one of the healthiest diets. It's the only diet that's known to like reduce the risk of obesity, heart disease, cancer, and like diabetes as well. So just like overall, one of the most well-studied evidence-based diets, and like all of the benefits that it provides. But when you look at this pyramid, it's not just about the food that you eat. So Mediterranean diet is also about this like very bottom half. So what do you see here? People are sitting down together, eating food. People are being active. They are playing sports. They're making sure their area is clean. They're living, a clean, healthy lifestyle, which is what we talked about in the previous section, which is what Tibb-e-Nabawi recommends: getting good sleep, making sure you keep yourself clean, making sure you're getting the exercise and activity that you need. And then it's about eating these foods, which again is in Tibb-e-Nabawi: eating the barley, eating olive oil, grapes, all these Mediterranean diet foods. Kind of this other picture on the side is just about how honey is actually now being used as dressing even. So this is something that we have in our hospital that we use because yes, honey is a cough suppressant, but it is also like healing in the sense it's like antibacterial. It improves healing, is like faster. And this is just like a dressing that we would use if like someone has stitches or like some sort of injury. We use this Medi honey. So Hüsna, I think you were saying something.
Yeah, I didn't know about that honey was used as wound and burn dressing. That's very interesting.
Yeah. It's newer because we're just kind of catching up with the Tibb-e-Nabawi, actually. Yeah. So why does this matter? The leading causes of death are heart disease and cancer, diabetes, and then you see this list of what are the leading causes of death. And then you look at the Mediterranean diet and what it reduces the risk of. And there's so much overlap. So Tibb-e-Nabawi is preventative medicine for all of these things. We can call it the Mediterranean diet, but it's Tibb-e-Nabawi. It was there before. So this is just kind of my little soapbox about sugar, because sugar is super unhealthy. There is actually a lot of overlap. A lot of the sugar companies also own the diabetes pill companies. Yeah, so this is a whole thing that you could go and like research on your own. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but nowhere in the Tibb-e-Nabawi is there like pure sugar. Yes, there's fruits and stuff, but that's like different from this refined sugar. And I think recognizing, just being like cognizant of how much sugar is in everything that we eat in this day and age is very important. And then this is kind of our brain normally, where you're getting like the appropriate dopamine that you should be getting. But when you use a lot of sugar, which is like literally in everything that we eat, it's very similar to a cocaine user's brain regarding like dopamine and how you're going to experience like day-to-day pleasure even.
I did not know about that.
Yeah.
That sugar, like the brain, like the scan on the brain, like both the cocaine user and the sugar user, they have like almost same amounts of low dopamine. I mean, when you look at this, the cocaine user has more fields of yellow compared to the sugar, so that's even scarier.
It is a little scary. Yeah, it's kind of scary, but it's also so hard to prevent, right? Because sometimes you get like a salty snack and then you look in it and even that has sugar in it and you're like, why does everything have sugar in it? But just kind of I think it's really hard to cut it out of our lives completely, but just like recognizing like, what is my sugar intake? Do I need the sugar right now? And just recognizing it is all you can really do. And then I think I have like 2 more sections, herbs and plants, and then hijama. I know I've taken up a lot of time, but I'll try to go through quickly. So these are a lot of the herbs that are mentioned in like hadith. A lot of them are like used in medicine. Like aloe vera, we know is like good for like skin health and hydration. Senna is actually something that I'll prescribe in the hospital for constipation. They have it in like pill form or like liquid form, and then you can also get it as like tea as well, just over the counter. But it's kind of also unfortunate, like a lot of these, or like 3 of these I like wrote with Arabic, because we don't exactly know what they are. So like, is carrots like a kind of lemongrass, but we don't know exactly what it is. So there are actually a lot of examples of this where we're like, we think this is the plant that was being mentioned here, but we're not positive. The reason for that could obviously be because of just like historically the things that have happened in that area and the access that they have had, how much research they've been able to do, how much of their own like culture they've been able to preserve with what's been going on, you know, in that geopolitical area. So it is very unfortunate, but I think there's hope, right? Because we do have the knowledge, like we have the word for it. So we need people who will go out and hopefully like research these things, because we know these are not Tibb-e-Nabawi plants, but these plants or these medicines on the bottom, like vincristine, paclitaxel, these are actually chemotherapeutics, like drugs that are used to treat cancer patients, and they are derived from these plants like up here. So these plants, right, have not been researched in the same way that these plants have been. But maybe if they were, like, there would be very like strong therapeutic effects from these as well. They could be, you know, engineered and researched, and maybe there would be something in these as well that we are missing. So another research point with the, you know, ultrasound. So we have 2 research projects.
Yeah. Very
yeah. So why can we say this? Because in the hadith it says there's no disease that Allah has created except that he has also created its treatment. So again, it goes back to that, you know, we are being motivated to pursue evidence-based medicine, to pursue research, to answer these questions, to find the answers. So inshallah, we are, you know, we're sparking that curiosity to do this research. And then there isn't like a mention of like aromatherapy specifically in like hadith or the Quran, but it does like in the hadith it does say to like fumigate or to burn like these herbs in your home. And then it also says like whoever is offered perfume, let him not refuse it, for it's easy to carry and it smells good. So all of that kind of supports like the fact that, you know, it makes us feel good, and things that make us feel good are usually good for our health. So, you know, aromatherapy is also something to kind of look into and consider as well, I would say.
It's a little unrelated, but this also reminds me of how like listening to water can help a lot psychologically. Like they used to, for like people who had, they said, gone crazy, they would have like a big fountain built where they stay, listen to it, and that would help them in a way. And I think it helps us as well, just as smells can help us. And also I have a friend who uses like this one smell that, you know, you rub on your wrists. And like ever since she started using that, it's like you can see how it's not like a smell that's like strong, but it's light. But I think the feeling it gives is like it just has like a feeling of warmth, and you're just like, oh, let me just hug you for a little longer. Like and like her students also, they're like, you smell so good, can I hug you a little longer? Like I think I don't know.
Yeah.
How
I think it's related. You said it's not related. That's very related to this, because right when you hug someone, what happens? Oxytocin gets released. Again, that is good for our health. So like all of these are connected. Sometimes we think of it as only one step, like, okay, this smells good and it makes me feel good. That's it. But it's like, then what does that impact? Like the people around you, how does it impact them? You have a stronger community. How does that impact your health? Everything is so interconnected. And that's why it's the biopsychosocial spiritual, like all of them. That's the model that we're looking for. You can't just say A, B, 2 points. It's too interconnected. Yeah. And then finally, you can't talk about Tibb-e-Nabawi without talking about cupping. I think everyone wants to talk about this. So cupping has been around since before Islam, since about 2000 BC, and continues until today. This is Michael Phelps. He does cupping, I guess, before his competitions, he would do cupping. And then you see the historical picture where they're also doing cupping side by side. So there is a lot of I guess I would say two sides of research. Some people say, there's really no benefit to cupping. Some of them say only in very specific things there's benefits of cupping. So it's definitely being like studied and researched, but there isn't like a very strong consensus, something that everyone in medicine agrees on. But there is research being done on it, and there should be more research done on it, because it's not just Muslims who are interested in it. It's been around since before Islam as well. Like everyone's interested in this. So it's definitely another research topic. What were you gonna say?
I said I agreed with you. I think it definitely should be researched.
Yeah.
3 things. 3 things on the list.
Exactly. Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says healing is in 3 things: a gulp of honey, which we talked about, cupping, and branding with fire. But I forbid my followers to use branding with fire. Hijama on an empty stomach is best, and it is a cure and a blessing. And then whoever performs cupping on the 17th, 19th, or 21st days of the Islamic Islamic calendar, then it is a cure for every disease. And then these are some of like the sunnah points to do hijama on as well.
Do you know why on those specific days that it's a cure for every disease?
I have no idea. I would think that, that kind of ties back into the beginning of the lecture, like that belief of like metaphysical. Yeah, we are not taking things by like, we're not questioning things. I think that's a very important question to ask. We can try to explain it. We can say, right, the moon and the planets and the stars are all in some sort of alignment. There's a metaphysical electromagnetic thing that we don't understand because, right, we only understand this much. This is how much we can hear. This is how much we can understand. So that's something that Allah knows. But like, even if I try to explain it with my theories, because of how much I don't know anything, like my theories mean nothing, right? So Allah says, Allah had this gave this divine revelation to Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, which is Tibb-e-Nabawi. And then he tells us these are the days to do it on. That's because it was revealed to him that way. And I'm sure there's the physical explanation as well, but there doesn't need to be for us to believe it, right? Okay. Any other questions about this or things you want to talk about? Okay. So last thing, I think inshallah through this discussion, hopefully everyone has understood that like holistic medicine does not negate our use of allopathic medicine. And hopefully we can kind of integrate the two and find that balance between not like bringing back, because it's actually still there, but like recognizing our Tibb-e-Nabawi within the medicine that already exists, and then finding more and more evidence and doing that research to strengthen that knowledge, inshallah. That's all I had to say. It was so good talking to you guys.
It was such a nice presentation. I loved it. I think everyone who's watching this video also loved it as well. Thank you for informing us about this topic that most of us usually don't hear about. As you said, it's like it's in our everyday life on medicine, but we don't know the Tibb-e-Nabawi part about it, Thank you. I hope everyone also enjoyed it. Thank you for watching and joining this amazing live with Miss Ceyda. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Bye-bye.